Well, today I want to talk about Jesus' resurrection. Well, nope, I take that back. I'm not going to talk about his resurrection. I want to talk about his burial and who responded after Jesus died. How did they respond? I think you might be surprised.
Welcome to Everyday Truth with Kurt Skelly. We believe the Bible is true and relevant to everyone, everywhere, every day. If today's conversation is a help to you, take a moment to leave a review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. Now, let's join Kurt for today's episode.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're in Matthew 27, and just want to apologize because I feel as if when we talk about the crucifixion and these key components of the gospel itself, you feel like you're just not doing a good job. We're just scratching the surface. We could talk about every word, every phrase in this chapter and spend weeks and weeks just talking about the theology of it and all that was happening. So I do want you to forgive me because in a podcast like this, we're keeping it moving, but I am aware that there's so much more that we could be saying about each one of these passages. We're in verse 54 today, where we're going to look at the way people responded to Jesus' death and all of that phenomena that was occurring right after his death. Verse 54, now when the centurion, remember that, the guy that was in charge, when the centurion and they that were with him, so some of those that had gambled for the clothes of Jesus, when they were with him, watching Jesus, saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly. They realized that this is a power greater than the power of the Roman government. And they feared, saying, truly, this was the Son of God. So these hardened soldiers did this for a living, had no compassion upon condemned criminals. They saw something that night that could not be argued against. They just could not dismiss it. This is the Son of God. Look at verse 55. And many women were there, beholding afar off, which followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him. Remember, Jesus had not just the 12 that followed him as his apostles, but there were others that, especially women, that helped to fund his ministry. We read about them in several passages throughout the gospel. And the Bible says in verse 56 that among which, so there were more than these, but Matthew is listing some of them, among which was Mary Magdalene. She was there. Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, or Joseph. So this would be James the Less, who was one of the 12 apostles, not James and John. But, and this Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, was probably the wife of Cleophas, one of the men on the road to Emmaus that Jesus spoke with on Resurrection Day. And the other disciple may have been Mary on that day. And the Bible says, and the mother of Zebedee's children. So who were Zebedee's children? That's James and John. So here you have Mary and this other Mary and Salome. Then the Bible says, and when the evening was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea. Arimathea is probably biblical Ramoth or somewhere near there where Samuel was from, the hill country. But here's this rich man, Joseph. He was also himself Jesus' disciple. The Bible teaches that he was kind of in secret. He loved Jesus, he followed Jesus, he believed Jesus, but he wasn't public about Jesus. He was part of the council. He was an important man and probably wanted to play both sides a little bit. But now that Jesus has died and now that it's all said and done, he's willing to come out of his shell along with Nicodemus. The Bible says in verse 58 that he went to Pilate. He probably had, because of his riches and his position, he probably had some sway, and he certainly had access to Pilate, and he begged the body of Jesus Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. So Joseph was able to get the body of Jesus. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in clean linen cloth. Now, just think about what that must have been like. So here's a rich man. He's not used to doing these slave activities like dressing a dead body. This is going to render him ceremonially unclean for the Passover feast and all of that. He doesn't care. Matter of fact, the Bible says he has an extravagant amount of ointment that he's putting on Jesus, wrapping his body along with Nicodemus. And the Bible says he laid it and he put a clean linen cloth. Don't forget that. He laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. So a tomb that he had made for himself, for his own family. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre and departed. So here's a man that in death is showing more loyalty to Jesus than he did in Jesus' life. This was just kind of a moment when he realized, what was I thinking? What was I doing? Why wasn't I standing? And I think in kind of another way, I think that's what many people will think at their own death. And they'll realize, wow, now that I have the perspective of the afterlife, now that maybe I'm a mediocre Christian, now that I'm in heaven, but what was I thinking? Why did I wait until death to be a bold follower? Why did I wait until death to sing his praises? Why did I wait till death to declare his lordship? Why not while I could? And no doubt there was an air of regret in Joseph, who didn't think that Jesus would rise again, but he's just honoring the dead body of Jesus the best that he can. Verse 61, and there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting over against the sepulchre. Now, so he went to the sepulchre, and is it not interesting that Mary and this other Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, they just leaned against the tomb. This is the night Jesus is crucified, I believe, on Friday before sundown. And so they're leaning against the tomb. By the way, if you're wondering how I think it's Friday, and I'm not going to argue about it, everyone argues about this, but in Jewish reckoning of time, any part of a day or a night counted as a day or a night. Jesus rose on the third day, so it wasn't 72 straight hours. Nobody says that. So he was in the tomb on Friday, all day Saturday, and part of Sunday. So there's 3 days. Any part of a day or a night included a day or a night in the Jewish reckoning of time. Again, I don't want to argue about that, but just as I'm explaining it, I'm picturing this is late Friday afternoon. Mary and Mary are just leaning up against the tomb, just lamenting what has happened. Loyal, depressed, but loyal nonetheless in their depression. Now, the next day that followed, the day of the preparation, so this is now Saturday, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that this deceiver, see, they're still just pouring it on thick, said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. Oh, and now they're quoting him. Now they know what he said. Now they're anticipating. What are they anticipating? Well, watch what they said. Verse 64, command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the third day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away and say unto the people, he is risen from the dead, so the last error shall be worse than the first. Hey, can you please get an extra guard detail here? Because he was a slick one, this Jesus. He was a deceiver, and he said he would rise. Now, we know he's not going to rise. We know he's dead, but his disciples are going to come steal his body and tell everybody he arose. And if we don't just guard that tomb, it's going to be bad. And, well, obviously, they're nervous, right? And this excuse is what they ended up spreading everywhere. When Jesus did indeed rise from the dead, this is the story that they stuck with, that his body was stolen. Look at verse 65. Pilate said unto them, ye have a watch. In other words, I've assigned to you a Roman contingent. You have guards at your disposal. Go your way. Make it as sure as you can. Go ahead. Guard the tomb, and you can use these soldiers at your discretion to make it as utterly secure as you possibly can. So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch. We're going to stop right there it's the end of the chapter. One chapter remaining, and wow, what a chapter it is. So we're going to stop there and begin chapter 28 next episode. Hope you have a great weekend. Until then, we'll see you. God bless you, my friends.